Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. And in this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for your freelancers challenges. And my name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Slobodan Gajić, a senior freelance JavaScript software developer with 9 years of practical experience, co-owner of the web design studio, and JavaScript educational content creator with thousands of followers on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So welcome, Slobodan.
Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me for this show. It's super pleasure to be here.
Slobodan, since you are an experienced content creator, my first question is, what was the hardest to start posting the content? How did you overcome the impostor syndrome, and if you even had it?
Yeah, actually, I had it. I mean, that was the actual hardest part. So just to, there's so many people, especially when you start creating content, there's so many experts out there. And if you start creating content, the worm in your mind is going to tell you, the thing that you're creating probably is not like the smartest ideas, and probably people have seen it and this is like boring. So that was like one of the things that I was thinking when I was starting to create content. So just that I'm gonna create invaluable content. But the bottom line is, if you create something that is not valuable or people don't have interest in it, most likely they're just gonna ignore it. That's the worst thing that can happen to you. Yeah.
I can only imagine. And most likely, I'm 200% sure that you received some feedbacks like, hey, everyone knows it. What are you doing? Give up doing it. How did you feel about that?
I still receive those those comments. Even now, like the other day, I created like some post about jQuery, and people are who is using the jQuery. It's like the oldest library, out there. But the thing is that the people are using different technologies, and we are all different. Some people like this or that. So if you're trying to please everybody on social media, you're not for social media. I mean, not for world entirely. I mean, generally, if you have your own opinion, you really need to be strong about your opinion, and you need to be open for a discussion, and that people are going to disagree with you. There are some facts about the technologies, but there are different things like what is the most popular technology and what is the best. And I mean, what's the best? What defines the best? So these things are, debatable, and you just need to be open-minded for it, right?
Yeah. And for you as a freelance developer, what is the hardest part of being a freelancer?
Yeah, for me, the hardest part was especially at the beginning, find a job on consistent basis. So, as a freelancer, you get the freedom of like changing jobs oftenly, and I feel like you have more freedom than when you work for a company full time, and you have like only 26, 27 days of vacation per year. But when you're a freelancer, you can work like maybe 20 hours this week. You cannot work like, for example, like a couple of weeks because you don't have a project or the project has ended, or maybe it's limited on time. I don't know, for whatever reason it may turn out. But the thing is that for me, it was like the most challenging part is to find work immediately after the previous project has ended. Usually how it ended, like in practice for me, it was either I had like a couple of projects running at the same time, or I don't have any. That was like my case at the beginning.
And how did you manage it?
Well, you just, I mean, for me, the key was to be really passionate about the generally programming and freelancing. And when I don't have a job, for me, it was like first to improve the skills that I have so that I make my portfolio better. And the second thing is to always be active on the platform, on the freelancers platform. For example, I was using at the beginning Upwork, and I had that installed on my phone. And I created like this, these alerts about the jobs and all of that. So I was constantly like sending messages. And once the client like requested me to create like a HTML page, and he sent me a message like in 1 a.m. I was sleeping. And when he sent me a message, I jumped out of the bed. I took my laptop and I was coding like 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. And that's because I was passionate. I didn't want to miss any chances. And I wasn't like experienced. I wasn't senior. I was just junior developer, but I didn't want to, miss any chances. That's how I got through that period initially.
And I feel like you didn't relate on any agencies or recruiters to bring you jobs.
No, Actually, I didn't. I mean, most of the cases, I was actually applying myself to the projects, and in most cases, they were like short projects, like a couple of weeks project. And later on, I got bigger projects and full-time positions. But for majority of time, I was working over some platforms. Later, it was like TopTel or
Mhm.
the platform that you're working at as well, and A Team and other platforms. But for
Yeah.
majority of time, it was some kind of a platform where I apply myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the most time-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
Well, one of the problems, I guess, being a freelancer is that you're constantly changing projects. I mean, as long as that's, on one hand, that's a good thing because you're always learning something new and working on something exciting.
Mhm.
But the thing, I mean, not always exciting, but at least you're changing. It's not boring. But the thing is that you're always learning new technologies. Even though, like for example, you're using like JavaScript all the time, but you're changing the libraries and the ecosystem of the applications, and you're constantly learning something. For some people, that's like tiring, and they prefer like working full time, and they're always work with the same technologies, and they don't have to spend time into learning new stuff and new libraries and all of that. So yeah, maybe that, I don't know.
Yeah. And as a freelancer, did you ever feel professional loneliness?
Yeah. So, I mean, actually, one of the reasons why I started creating content is because I wanted that interaction with people, and
Mhm.
especially like as you said, as a freelancer, but not generally as a freelancer, but as a remote worker, because in
Mhm.
most of the times you're working alone in the office. You don't have that interaction, and even like in a teams with like on Slack, people just tend to do things on their own way. If you're working in an office, then when you have a question, you go out there and ask a person, hey, do you know maybe
Yeah.
a solution for this? There's more communication. When that's on Slack, people usually are not like at the same time when you are. Maybe they are in different time zone, or they're just working like on the afternoon on different shift. So for me, like that interaction was lacking so much. And when I started creating content, you know, I got bunch of like people who connected with me, and I mean, I could like at the moment I could like 24 hours having discussion with people about the technologies, about the problems, about programming. Now it's overwhelming actually. So yeah.
I feel like you created your own community around you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have groups. I have like Discord group. It has like over 1,000 members, and I have a group on LinkedIn as well that has 7 or 8 thousand members. So definitely, those are like small communities. Yeah.
And I thought that you created a Patreon page. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I started creating content as something to learn and to improve my chances of getting a job, especially as a freelancer, right? You're constantly being like on the interviews, and you want people to notice you, right? And especially the interviews are separate story, right? It's very hard to get and pass the interview all the time, especially as a freelancer.
Mhm.
So my idea never was to monetize any of my social media, but so many people are telling me, "Man, you have so many followers." I mean, combined, I have over 200,000 followers.
Yeah.
So people are telling me you should just start monetizing that for yourself, and maybe you will have more time to free up. Start doing less of freelancing work that you're doing, and you can improve the content with that money that you're getting. So that's why I actually started with the Patreon. Maybe it's going to be something valuable. I'm going to try to provide people with something valuable, and actually the my plan is all that money that I get in to provide into maybe a professional editor or people who are going to help me to raise the quality of the content that I'm creating. That's the purpose of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we'll keep watching your journey together.
Okay.
And what is the most nerve-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
I guess sometimes you just feel like you don't click with a particular team or a
Mm,
project owner, and you just feel like that whatever you do, you're not good enough. I had a
yeah.
couple of, I mean, I didn't have many of these, luckily, but I have a couple of them, and you just felt like that they lost trust that I have in for you, and in most cases, at least for me, was the reason for that is because they didn't understand the technology and what it requires. So
Yeah.
yes, sometimes that like sucks because you know that you give your like 150% of yourself, and they still don't feel like you're good enough, or you're doing like good work, because they don't understand what is the process like of developing something. Yeah, that's something that I would say.
How did you manage those situations?
Well, actually, I didn't manage. I tried to to communicate with them, and just to explain them what it requires. For example, for one of the projects that I had previously, it was like the estimation of the actual project, and the client doesn't understand why it takes so much time. And you can tell him from start. I can tell you it's going to take like 3 times less, but I know how it goes. I have experience, and I know that this type of project and this big project take much more time than they're initially planned, because you have all these bugs that come with like the future request, the iteration with the QA developers, all these things. So it takes much more time that is what initially is planned. And some people just don't understand it, but yeah, that is how it's. I mean, luckily that's happened just once or twice in my career. So yeah, but it's something that I would take a note of.
Totally. And if your friend wanted to become a freelancer,
yes,
what are top 3 things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
Yes. First, I think that he should be able to sell himself. So being a freelancer, you need to have that ability to sell yourself, because it's not enough just to have the skills, because there's so many people who have skills, but still they're struggling to get the project on the constant basis. And at the same time, you have so many programmers and so many jobs out there, like projects, but people are struggling to get connected because the quality is what's missing. So even though you're good, if you don't know how to communicate yourself and to sell yourself, that's something that you need to reconsider if you want to be a freelancer. If you're a person who's gonna get job like immediately, and you're gonna be satisfied with the project and the salary and all of that, maybe you're not for freelancing. So communication, being able to sell yourself, and to be able to adapt yourself all the time to new technologies and new like libraries and new languages, new environment, new people. So to be adjustable, those three things are like something that I would recommend to people to question: do they have these skills to be a successful freelancer?
And from your experience, what is the most crucial thing in adapting yourself to the new team?
I think one of the most important is availability. So you need to be available for people to communicate the issues that you're having, to be open to them. So because oftentimes when you are a remote worker, there's lag between communication. And I'm not talking about the internet lag, but you ask a question and somebody's not there and he answers that tomorrow, right? And then you answer that like in the second day, and you lose context. But if you try to make yourself available and to try to be there with a team and to give yourself 100%, that's how you get yourself best integrated. And once you're integrated in the team, then you can get a little bit loose more, and because people now know you and you know how team functions and works, and you can get a loose a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. Slobodan, I wish to have the sky as a limit to our conversation, but time is a limit. So the final question: if you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
Yeah. So first thing which I would done differently definitely is creating content sooner. Why? Because previously when I started just freelancing, I was reaching out not only to platforms, but I was reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn. And I got rejected like 1,000 times, and I never got any like reply back. As soon as I started creating content, not as soon as, but like in a couple of months, when people start noticing and I got some traction on social media, recruiters started reaching out to me, people with projects, and now they're started chasing me. Not only like recruiters, but all these opportunities and stuff. So for me, if I were like to start creating content like 7 years ago, now I would have like, who knows, like 1 million followers, and it would be awesome. But it wasn't. I'm happy that I even started, but that's something that you need to do, like to build your online presence. That's the best way to build yourself like as a brand, and to be sure that you're going to be recognized and that you're going to get missions and projects, on regular basis.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And thank you so much for sharing your challenges, experience.
Thank you for inviting.
It's been such a pleasure to hear and learn from you.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.